before we even get to the trial, how do we make that decision? What do you think are the important factors you're considering with your client, right? Like a big word you use is exposure, right?
Yeah,
Exposure is a huge word. One of the things I consider is, do you have a criminal record? If you don't have a criminal record, right, and they're offering you a pathway to maintain that status, regardless if it's fucking 52-week sex program that you shouldn't do because you didn't rape anybody, or whatever it is, right? Whatever the case is, but there's a way for you to guarantee that when you get off this highway of your criminal case, you'll walk away with no criminal record. I feel like that's always very hard to turn down, regardless of regardless of your innocence or not, because your innocence might not be equate to the strength of the case, but almost even regardless of the strength of the case, because a bird in the hand is always better than whatever's in that fucking bush.
You're right.
I think that for me, it's like no case is a slam dunk. You know, like there's no case that is just a slam dunk, 100% win at trial, right? Anything can happen. Right?
I don't know. Ask you, G. Are there slam dunk cases?
My slam dunk cases get dismissed.
But that's what I was going to say.
I think what he's saying is like,
I know.
Why?
You made the point though.
Why isn't there slam dunk trial cases?
Because those cases should not go to trial, right? Because and it goes both ways. If a prosecutor has a real good case, my guy on video, statements made, admissions, 50 witnesses lined up, why am I going to trial, right? Why? When I can take something that will be less than what he would get at trial. I shouldn't go to trial in that case. Vice versa, where, you know, and this is just my opinion, if I have a really good case, like what's the best case for a defense attorney, right? My client is on video
That's
50 miles west of where the crime happened,
I mean,
right?
that's
Dismiss.
Right, that's the best.
They're not going to
right?
trial on that.
You know, so what prosecutor would go to trial in that case? I have a video of my guy not even at the scene.
The fear is that if all things being equal or perfect, an innocent man shouldn't be convicted. But there are elements outside of our control, and one of those elements outside of our control is the misunderstanding of the law. And what you're saying is that anyone who's being charged with a crime has no requirement to testify.
We have no requirement to do anything.
No, but I think that before we even get there, what Eugene was talking about, you know, why we take, you know, why pleas are so, you know, why we take so many pleas and why we don't go to trial, I think was one thing that you guys haven't touched on, which is, you know, you're undocumented. It's a huge thing.
I know exactly what you're saying.
So,
I avoided a trial on the eve of trial. That it was a DACA client, right?
Yeah.
Deferred act. What is it? Deferred arrival. What? I don't know what it is. What's the
There's no
DAC?
DACA.
Huh? It's deferred
Action Childhood Arrivals. Deferred Action
okay.
Childhood Arrival.
Yes, right. So this guy had DACA status, and because of that, he couldn't be deported.
So DWI?
Huh?
Was it a DWI? I know, yeah, it was a
DWI, right?
Because you
So
lose your shit if you had an
and like they're offering an impaired,
Yeah.
right? An impaired, so the audience understands, is you get charged with a misdemeanor because you blew up above a .08.
or maybe without it.
Yeah, they're typically gonna
You get charged with a misdemeanor DWI.
Yes, and they're typically gonna offer you, depending on what jurisdiction you're in, a traffic infraction, driving under the influence.
Driving while ability impaired.
That way.
Yeah. That's what it is. Driving
Right.
while ability impaired. It's an infraction though.
It's a traffic infraction. It's like a speeding ticket.
Right.
For us, normal citizens, right?
Yeah.
But someone with DACA status, that is a reason to invoke your DACA status.
Your status.
The status that you have that's protecting you, that's keeping it so that you can have a social security number or have whatever they get and be able to work, right? Because that's the whole point of the status, is that it gives you a certain level of protections that you can then use to work and do kind of go to school, work, get FAFSA, do all these things. Taking that traffic infraction, which for a citizen is a good offer if you actually was caught in the mix, will evoke your status. So it kind of became like, do you want to lose your status on a misdemeanor, or do you want to lose your status on a violation? At least if you lose your status on a violation, you are in a slightly better position. So we had to push to the end, and like this is like probably the most effect I think I ever had on a client's life, which is on the eve of trial, the third time through, I re-argued this motion several times, and finally the judge understood what I was saying, and they granted a dismissal right before we took the plea. It was like, we're going to take the plea, and they granted it.
So I think that you you're talking, what you're saying, it makes sense because you evaluate a case differently based on who your client is. And I think that's what we do on an everyday basis. And for a client who maybe makes sense to take a misdemeanor and a city bullet, as you said, another one may not make sense. You maybe need 30 days because of immigration consequences. So that's how you evaluate a case in terms of even going to trial differently. And my goals are very clear, and I'll share them with you. When I have an undocumented client, the first thing that I think about is, I don't want you to get deported. If my client, let's say it was born here in the United States, a citizen, the first thing that I think about is like, okay, guess what? Let's keep you out of jail. Let's keep you out of jail. First thing that I tell them is, let's keep you out of jail. Maybe you have to eat a misdemeanor, but I want to keep you out of jail. It's misdemeanor criminal record. Obviously you don't want them to have a criminal record, but if you got a criminal record but get a CD, something to think about. So it's like, you have to think about based on the case. And
I always put in the framework of risk-reward analysis. I literally say, what are you risking compared to what is your reward is, right?
Yeah.
When my clients are offered a violation or a pathway to a violation, I then start saying, well, at the end of the day, you're gonna have a violation. And this is a bird in the hand. This is a off ramp. This is exit 30. You're gonna get off. You know where you're going home to, right? Now, we don't have to take that off ramp. It's always your decision. We're gonna do whatever you want. Like, I'm just giving you advice. Because this shit ain't happening to me. It's happening to you. And I'm standing next to you and helping you happen to you, right? If you don't want to get off on that exit, that's fine, right? But then what does that mean? What are the likelihoods of what's going to be the next opportunity to end this shit?
Yeah.
And how likely are we going to get to the place we want to be as compared to the place we don't want to be? Because if you take this exit now, you know how to get home and you know what it's hitting for. You keep going, it's a pathway of uncertainty, right?
So what you mean is like, okay, in your analogy, okay, you have a chance to get out of this exit and it's in your hands. If you go without the highway and you live in the jury's hand, maybe you will not get out this highway.
Exactly.
Maybe you'll reach the end of the highway, which is not where you want to go.
Yeah.
The jury has a chance to get you out of the highway by saying they're not guilty. But if you take the plea, in which you are the main driver, you can get out the exit if you do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
All right, so we briefly touched on immigration. So I know this will be like a touchy subject for people in general, the public. And so taking a plea or not taking a plea is also dependent on the judge you're before. For political reasons, a judge will not allow you to take a certain plea because you're doing it for immigration purposes, and other judges don't mind. And it's actually like a big political thing that's going on in the courts. So even like going to trial, you're going to trial because maybe the DA's office is not offering you a certain plea that will not make you deportable, and that's why you're going to trial.
Which is, people don't think that really happens. Like you can just end up doing a trial simply because a judge, particularly doesn't like your client for whatever reason, and now you got to do this trial on a case that maybe necessarily shouldn't go to trial. Where I've shown up to court several times where we've had a deal, prosecutors on board. If the guy's doing like a program or something, the program coordinator's on board. They have a bed or a spot ready for him in the program. My client wants the plea. I want the plea. It's best for him. And the judge is like, nah, this is crazy. This is crazy. Nah, I'm not taking this plea. And and there's no reason. They don't put any reason on the record. They don't have to. And just like how the judge may be the arbitrary one making that decision, a lot of cases with their outcome just depends on what jury you have. Like juries, I think trials to a certain extent can be won in jury selection, the way you pick a jury and what jurors you have. So if you have a good jury where they're making a lot of eye contact with you and you're saying things and they're nodding and they understand, you're able to relate to that jury, that's
I think that's 85%.
Yeah,
where you win the trial.
It's a lot.
85% where you win the
like
trial
that.
is jury selection.
So I think, to a certain extent, I think part of your due diligence as an attorney, right, is if you think that your client is making the wrong decisions, that's undone, right? But you better be at the end of your job. Like, you better have done your due diligence and made your best attempt at convincing them to do what you perceive. You went to law school, you have your experience, you talked to your supervisor, you done everything you did, and you're saying like, yo, this is what the advice is.
Well, you gotta inform them, right?
You have to inform them.
Down to. I mean,
But you're informing.
It's not your life.
It doesn't end at saying it out loud. It ends at, like, if I say something out loud, in normal life, whether it lands or doesn't land isn't my fucking problem. As a fucking attorney, I have a fiduciary duty to not just say it to you, but to make sure it's understood, and then you make your fucking decision.
I had a guy with like 60 convictions. They offer him an ACD in an AP4 DV case, you know, and I was just like, bro, you gotta, you know, it's a good case, but it's gonna be a bench trial. You know, the judge is gonna determine this. You have all this stuff. The judge is gonna look at your rap. They're gonna know.
Yeah,
and
that
dude ended up getting convicted. It was a bench trial, but then he got reversed. So I guess he was trying. I guess the dude was, and I told him, I was like, "Yeah, you have a good case, but he's gonna go to the judge," and we didn't know.
Come on, so you had a guilty for as many months it took to get acquitted, to get the fucking reversal.
Yeah,
that's hilarious.
It was funny because the DA was. I don't think the DA thought that he was gonna win the case based on the evidence. So when she said, you know, when she said guilty, he didn't really know what to do, and then he was like, "Oh crap, man! Like I'll give him a CD." I was like. This dude was like 60 convictions.
For sentence.
Yeah, for sentence. A conditional discharge. I was like, damn. And, you know, he was right. Because she look, it got reversed and, you know, but you know, that's the thing. Like sometimes, you know, clients are right.
Well, I have
contact with the system, you know.
I have one client, he was charged with criminal possession of a controlled substance in the 7th degree, and he was offered an ACD. And the reason why he didn't take it is because he said, it wasn't crack. So
That's a good reason.
Test
it, crack.
It wasn't crack. It wasn't. So we didn't, and they dismissed it. So there's other reasons. There's other reasons why.
But see, that's a
yo, but that's
we're not gonna go over it. That's a
that
Kaylin
almost
case,
never
right? It's
happens.
Kaylin, right?
Look, let's just say this. Let's just say this. That shit you charged with felony, you better forget about it. Like you're not gonna get an outright dismissal just like that. I mean, if you're charged with a fucking felony, you're gonna be there for a little while. This ain't on the next court that you're gonna get that shit dismissed. Forget about it.
I mean, listen, I've had a couple dismissed. Right, I had a gun case.
How long did it take?
Oh, it took a year.
That's what I mean.
And then, without it even being indicted, like we kept
mean.
waiting. Like we were waiting for them to test the DNA on the gun, and they actually did it. You know, and they found out my guy's DNA was not on the gun, and they dismissed it. You know, so
and
I think
depends,
that's the way
though. It depends on the case because even if your DNA
depends
is not on the gun,
yeah,
they can still charge it.
Yeah,
Depending on where you at.
Yeah,
because the cop will say that he saw you with the gun, so the cop's observation.
Or what about a house? Or in a car.
Oh yeah. Okay, now we're going. Okay.
Yeah, well, but that's what I
don't know what happened in your case.
No. It's not even my case. I'm just saying, like you just never know.
So I think